Welcome to Cash in the Celebrity Attic. This is the show that looks around the homes of the well-known, finds their treasures, and then takes them to auction, raising money for good causes. Well, today, I'm going to meet a lady who's a presenter and journalist who's been on our TV screens for nearly 4 decades. On top of all of that, she's also responsible for setting up a helpline to help vulnerable children, and she recently stood as a Member of Parliament. She's known for her Hearts of Gold and for presenting a television programme that lasted 21 years and is arguably the most famous consumer show to date. Well, she knows all there is to know about jobs worths, singing bus drivers, dodgy decorators and dogs who say "Fotherdydd." So have you worked out who it is yet? London on my way to meet Esther Rantzen.
Coming up, we tried to catch our expert out with a Rantzen special edition.
I feel fruited, do you?
Sort of 60s, is it?
Let's have a look. Oh, did you make that?
We can always count on Paul to come to the rescue.
What's polite for fat? Well, and elderly?
The roly-polies.
Oh!
At auction, Esther works the crowd like a real pro.
Nice gentleman in a very, very nicely tailored check shirt. 65. Does flattery do any good here?
The bidder's interest is strong, and not just for her lots.
I think that gentleman's a bit of a fan, Esther.
But he didn't say it was for me.
Join us for lots of fun and watch the hammer fall. Esther was the face of That's Life on BBC One for 21 years. More recently, she stood as an independent candidate for Luton South in the 2010 general election. She was married to the pioneering documentary filmmaker Desmond Wilcox, who died in 2000. They had 3 children who are all now grown up. Her daughter, Rebecca Wilcox, is now a journalist and presenter in her own right. Esther's hoping to move in the near future, so her house is not ideal for a rummage. Her good friend Briar has allowed us into her South London villa instead, and Esther's brought along boxes of her belongings for us to look through. With me is Paul Hayes. Brought up in the antiques trade, he's itching to start the search.
Good morning.
Hello.
Lovely to meet both of you.
And you?
Now, this isn't your home, is it, Esther?
No, this is where Briar lives.
Right, well, I have to say it's fantastic. It was a lovely place. Thank you. So how long have you two known each other?
How long have we known each other?
30 years.
About 10 years.
Right, OK, yes. So how did you two meet? And did you meet through work, or did you know each other prior to that?
Yes. We both worked at the BBC.
Ah, OK. All right, excellent.
And then, in the end, I was her boss.
Were you now? Do you know what, Esther? I can't ever imagine you having a boss.
She was tough. She was firm but fair.
So, Esther, it's you who's called us in. Tell us what you want to raise the money for.
Well, it's Childline, and Childline is in its 25th year, and we're doing really well, but we're still only answering about 2/3 of the calls we get. So all the money we raise today will pay for more phone calls from more children who have nowhere else to turn, so it may save lives.
Have you a figure in mind?
Well, I thought a target of 1,000 would be nice, because that will really mean a lot of phone calls for a lot of children. So if we could do that, it'd be great.
Childline is, of course, the telephone helpline set up in 1986 after child abuse items on Esther's show That's Life. We'll find out more about that later. Paul's decided to start the search in the bedroom, where he's already unwrapping one of Esther's collections.
Now then. I found some very interesting items here, actually. These are beautiful, aren't they?
They're lovely.
They're Japanese, aren't they? And they were worn on their belts, is that right?
Yeah, they're called a netsuki.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you decide not to carry on collecting them then?
Then I fell in love with elephants.
Yeah.
Right.
And I began to dislike having ivory.
Ah, right, OK, yeah.
So I think they're valuable, aren't they?
They certainly are. They're highly collectible. They go back to the time where everyone in Japan was wearing kimono rather than the Western-style dress that we have now.
Yeah.
And the actual word netsuki is 2 words there. It means root attach. And you would have an obi, same as Obi-Wan Kenobi. You'd have an obi,
Yes, okay.
which is like a sash, which you go around the body of your silk garment, and then your netski would be the root, would be your woggle, if you like, at the bottom. And you can tell a genuine one by the two holes on the bottom. That's
which
where
you thread the thing through.
Well, that's fine.
And this one I love because it's a little mouse in a nut. Do you think?
That's right. I mean, actually, it looks more like a rat, and the rat is a sign of strength in Japanese culture because it can bore through anything. It's a very strong animal. So yeah, the Japanese were all for that sort of thing. But the quality of the carving is superb. And these two actually are not netskis. No. These are okimonos.
Oh, are they indeed?
An okimono is simply a carving.
Okay.
And you're looking at least the £50 to £100 mark each. So a collection like this, you're looking at least 300 to 500 a here as an auction estimate.
Did you think they might be worth that sort of figure?
I hadn't really thought about a figure, so I'm really pleased. I'm delighted.
The ivory trade was banned globally in 1989 in an attempt to stop the poaching that was decimating elephant populations. In the UK, it is only legal to sell ivory worked before 1947. Fortunately, Esther's do fall into this antique category and are acceptable for sale. Briar decides to check some jewellery boxes for any gems she won't miss. She comes across 2 silver pocket watches in a leather case. One of them is from Bravington's, a London jeweller's, whose main shop used to stand opposite King's Cross Station. They belong to Briar's uncle, but she's happy for them both to go to auction to try and reach their estimate of £30 to £50. And I'm sticking with Esther to see which of her other items is worth a trip to the sale room.
This is a great house.
It is, isn't it?
And it's really homely. Do you spend much time here?
Absolutely, yes, all the time. Yep, we see each other a lot. But I have brought you here to show you a little treasure of mine, which could be worth nothing.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I do like little pouches like this, though.
Now, these are the earrings that Jessie Matthews wore. Now, I don't know which musical show it was.
Crikey.
Aren't they
fab? Amazing.
Jessie Matthews, Over My Shoulder Goes One Car.
OK, well, let's see what Paul has to say about them. Paul, I found your Christmas present.
Really?
Yes.
Hello. Right.
Look, these were a gift to Esther. Aren't they fantastic?
Look at that, they're amazing, aren't they?
Now, I'll tell you about them. They were given to me by a marvellous actress called Audrey Laban, who was in a troupe of dancers and singers. They were, what's polite for fat?
Well,
and elderly.
The roly-polies.
Oh, she was
I wouldn't know that.
She was a roly-poly.
All right.
But when I knew her, she was very twinkle-toes, and we got on very well. I was Dick Whittington at the time. It was in Bognor. We won't go there.
Anyway, very bizarre, this story.
Yes. Anyway, she had appeared in a London stage show with Jessie Matthews. And Jessie Matthews, at the end of the run, gave her these earrings.
May I have a look?
Please.
Yeah, these are paste, and of course paste jewellery it enabled people to buy what were very expensive-looking items for a relatively small amount.
I mean, I could get a letter. Would that be helpful from Audrey?
Yeah, it would help, actually. You got a bit of celebrity memorabilia there, and 2 celebrities by the time. Well, 3 celebrities, because you own them as well, so you've got three bites of the cherry there.
So what do you think of the value might be? A bit hard to value, aren't they?
They're very hard to value, but they're great fun items, very theatrical. I've never seen a pair like these. So that must be quite rare. So if I said around the £50 mark, sort of 30 to 50. The rest of the value will go on the provenance that goes with them, really.
Are you happy with that value, Esther?
Yes, I might put a reserve on them.
Of course.
For the sake of sentiment.
But when they get to the sale room, will that decision be a wise one?
You would look great in these.
We'll have to wait a little longer to see how the bidders react to Esther's sales technique. As our rummage in Briar's house continues, Paul has found a very attractive wine goblet which belonged to Esther's father-in-law. It's early 19th century and is engraved with a neoclassical design. He gives it an estimate of £40 to £60. Paul and Briar are doing sterling work, so we leave them to it, while I ask Esther how she broke into broadcasting.
I started as a clerk. I'd been making sound effects in radio and decided I really would love to work in television. And I got a job as a clerk. And once I was in there, I heard that there was a job as a researcher going. So I applied for that and got it. And I knew then that my life would change. One contract led to another, and I went from researching behind the scenes to researching on camera. for Bernard Braden's programme Braden's Week, and then That's Life and the rest.
And what do you think of television from when you started to how it compares today?
Reality shows, I think we were one of the first, because That's Life was, although I didn't realise it at the time, a reality show.
Yes.
The entertainment, the stories, the major investigations, all came from our audience.
Now, of course, you've also touched on politics recently, haven't you?
Well, I've always been interested in politics. And then when the expenses scandal started, I couldn't believe what I was reading. And I was invited by someone who knew how I felt to go up and meet the people, see how they felt about me. And they were so warm and welcoming that I thought, well, in for a penny, in for several pounds. I don't recommend it, Lorne. It's a very expensive process.
Yes.
But it was worth it. It was really interesting insight into the campaigning, the door-to-door, doorstepping, the tribalism. I was fascinated by it. Whether anything comes of it, we will see. Never say never.
And we'll never be able to reach that £1,000 target unless we find a few more things.
It's in here. This is what I wanted to show you.
Wow, look at this. It's like something out of Sherlock Holmes in here, isn't it? Wonderful. Right, this is it.
That's it?
Well, this is actually a mantle clock, so it would actually sit on your mantelpiece rather than on your bureau like you got it here. But it's called a 4-glass mantle clock, and it's like an oversized carriage clock. Most people, when they retire, they get these wonderful little carriage clocks which have a carrying handle. The ones without the handles are always designed to sit in one place and never be moved. But it's called a 4-glass clock. You've got these wonderful beveled glass here, which are very, very expensive to repair. So what I'm looking for here is to make sure that there's a little bit of a chip here, but I think we can get away with that. But any cracks or any bits missing, that's quite a difficult job for a glazier to do, actually. And we're looking sort of, mid-19th century, so 1850, 1900, that sort of time. And these really were designed to stay in one place and be quite accurate. And what you would do, you would set the other clocks in the house by one good running clock. Right. So what I always look for is adjustments, and you can see on the pendulum here as it's moving around, if you can catch it, it's the letters RA. Right. Now that stands for retard and advance. So it means you can actually slow the movement up by retard, or you can quicken it up by the advance. So you can always have it running absolutely perfect time, which is great. The most important thing to look for on this particular clock has to be the dial, because that's what you look at all the time. And I can see this is slightly cracked. Did you sort of receive it like that? Or is
yes, I've only had it for a little while, a couple of years, so I think it's how it was.
Right. That is quite difficult to repair, actually. It's a piece of copper, which is then enamelled, and the enamel cracks over a period of time. And you probably get away with that, actually. Well, do you know what? I think it's a fabulous clock. It's a bit of Victorian history. I mean, I think you're looking £200, possibly £300. I mean, does that sound all right to you?
Sounds great. That's very nice.
All right, OK.
Oh, shall I really give it away? Yes, I will.
Of course.
That's very generous of Briar and is a fantastic addition to our running total. Going by Paul's lowest estimates up to now, we stand to raise £600 when we take everything we found to auction. So we're well on the way to reaching Esther's target. Her chosen charity came into being as a result of her consumer affairs show, That's Life.
Now, obviously, your charity is Childline. How was that related to the programme?
Well, when we began, we were, which was in 1973, we were what was then a very standard consumer show, doing things about 40 boots and shoes, 40 washing machines, 40 cars. And then we broke new ground with a lot of life and death stories, talking about how to make playgrounds safer, talking about dangerous cots, which hurt children, talking about seatbelts in the backs of cars. And I realised that the only stories I couldn't touch because they hurt me so much, I think like many people, were the stories of child abuse. And came up with the idea of a special helpline for children, and we launched it on That's Life. That was just a trial run, but the lines were absolutely jammed, and I became aware that we could reach children no one else knew about, and that they got help and comfort just by talking to somebody, a stranger, about their pain. And we decided to try and set it up as an independent charity. Since then, we have helped 2.25 million children, so 2.5 million children.
And what would you say are the major changes you've seen during those years that Childline has been operating? I mean, is it getting better or worse for children out there?
It's difficult to tell. It's difficult to tell. The one good thing I can tell you is that children who are ringing us about sexual abuse ring us far earlier. Nowadays, nearly half the children who ring about sexual abuse do so within a month of it starting.
Right.
So that's really good news. It means that children know we're here and really understand that if they ask for help, we will help them.
Well, we're hoping, obviously, to make a contribution by what we're doing here today.
Thank you, thank you.
So I think maybe, given everything you've just said about that, we need to get back to work so we can get the money together.
We certainly must.
Come on, then.
I'm so impressed by Esther's passion for a cause that's close to her heart. Her enthusiasm fires us all up to find more collectibles that could go towards supporting her goal. Our expert notices a stack of prints left in the hallway. He's not sure if they're Briar's or Esther's and decides to take a closer look. Meanwhile, it's a 19th century rosewood writing slope that catches my eye. It's another of Esther's possessions that she no longer wants. It has a little damage and looks well used, but Paul thinks it could still raise £40 to £60 for us.
Briar, now there's some nice old prints here. Now, are these all places where you used to live, or...?
These are Esther's.
Oh, right, great.
They used to be in her dining room in Kew when she lived there, and there are scenes around Hammersmith and Kew and Chiswick.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But this one's Chiswick House in 1763. This one's Hammersmith Mall in 1800. And I suspect what these have been are book illustrations.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and what would happen, you'd have a book maybe with all views of England,
Yep.
and there may be 100 illustrations in a book.
Yep.
And of course, someone can frame those up.
And were they coloured in the book?
They were black and white, and then when they've been removed, someone's tinted them afterwards. So they're always black and white illustrations in the book. And what you're left with, really, is a bit of legacy about how things used to look. I mean, more often than not, they tend to be 19th century prints of how that area looked 100 years earlier. So I would suspect that this one's been printed about 1860. Whereas the bigger ones there, that's quite a famous artist, a guy called George Morland.
That's really lovely.
Yeah, so those are very, very decorative. That's more of a modern sort of picture of a rustic scene. He's very much like Constable in his paintings, you know, one of Britain's best-known 18th century painters. If I said around the 150 mark here, I think looking sort of 120, 150 as an estimate.
Great.
How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic.
All right.
We're doing quite well, aren't we?
We really are, but the day's not over yet. Esther's brought along a box of old books and picks out an early 19th century title, Chess for Beginners. Might it be of interest to anyone at auction? It's by W.M. Lewis and was a gift to Esther many years ago. Her father was a keen chess player, but she never really quite liked the game herself. Paul reckons old chess books are quite collectible and gives it a valuation of £100 to £150.
So is this your office now?
This is now my lovely office, yes.
Oh, OK. Now, you split your time, don't you, between here and Cornwall?
Yep.
And what do you do now?
I work for myself. I'm building a kind of online business. And I also work with Eden Project and do some stuff with them for media stuff, which
That's
is lovely.
wonderful,
Yes, it
yeah.
is.
So a bit of a change to bossing Esther around, then?
Yes, it was. Well, the thing is, then you work with a big team, and that's the biggest difference for me now. And it's great fun bossing Esther around. But she's fantastic, and she's great fun. And as you can see, she's got a fabulous sense of humour. So we had some really good times working on That's Life.
And how is it that you two have stayed in touch and obviously become such firm friends?
We are very, very kind of similar. We have similar attitudes and we have lovely times.
Well, something else I want to ask you, actually, which is, who's the worst guest you ever had on?
Oh, I'll tell you. No. Afraid so.
I don't believe it. I'm going to have to tell Paul. Come on.
Now, little does our expert know that Esther and I have a little surprise for him up our sleeves. We like these jolly japes on Cash in the Attic.
Hello, look, I found this to get Paul. It's a value.
Yes.
I consider it to be a modern collectible with some provenance. So should we get him to value that later
I think it's a
on?
very good idea. I'm very fond of that.
Are you?
Yep, very fond
we
of
can
it.
tell Paul that. What have you got there, Esther?
These are postcards that my family sent me in 1948 when I was ill in hospital.
Oh, they're lovely.
They are sweet, aren't they? They're Mabel Lucy Atwell.
Yes, we see there's lots of collectors for those. Are they something that's going into the auction?
I think the thing is they have got a certain amount of sentimental value.
OK, well, that's fair enough. I don't want you to sell anything that you'd rather not. And they are charming images, aren't they? Have you got anything else in that box, then?
I've got this. No, this is another book. Has to be treated with some care. When I lived in Kew, in one of the local antique shops, we found a rather interesting old leather book.
Oh. It's very delicate, isn't it?
It's in quite a delicate state. It needs caring for. Manuscript account book of Queen Caroline, wife of King George II, 1737.
Good grief. Did she buy anything nice?
Warrant for the payment of G. Downes his bill for corn, to be delivered for the use of Her Majesty's stables. And it's full of stuff like that.
All handwritten, of course, as well.
Beautifully handwritten.
Well, I think we definitely have to get Paul to have a look at this. I think this is quite exciting. Paul, are you there?
Uh-huh.
Come through. We found a few bits and pieces, actually. It might be of use.
Hello.
Esther's got a book here, but first of all, I found a really interesting modern collectible.
All right, OK. There we are.
I'm very fond of this.
That's quite nice, isn't it? I feel free to. Do you?
Sort of 60s, is it?
Let's have a look. Oh, did you make that? That's fantastic, from Esther 2000. Well, it's a very collectible item, isn't it? Look at that. There's no cracks or chips in it. It's something for the next generation to appreciate, I think. What a wonderful thing.
Well, I don't think it's being sold anyway, really, is it? No. And the postcards aren't going either.
Okay.
But that does leave us with a rather interesting book here.
Right.
I'll let
Now,
Esther
I'm
explain.
actually worried about its condition, Paul.
OK.
So I don't know if it's worth anything at all.
But, of course, when books get to a certain age, they do tend to deteriorate. What's the subject?
Well, it's rather royal, actually.
Royal?
Account book of Queen Caroline, wife of George II, is that right? 1737.
And it's all handwritten?
And it's all...
By Queen Caroline?
Well,
No, not by
at
her.
all.
Okay.
None of it by her.
OK.
But it's basically her account, so it's things that she's ordered, and then her high commands have sort of kept an account book.
That is a totally unique item. It belongs to Queen Caroline. What a fantastic thing. Well, I think what we need to do is to get this into the hands of a specialist. I mean, I would, if you were willing to part with it, I would like to put that in with, say, a minimum of £1,000. And I think what we should do is to advertise it as well as we can. But that could really take off. If someone takes a shine to it, then it could really take off. So.
OK. Well, the value of everything going to the auction comes to £1,860.
Wow. That's a lot.
Wow.
It is, and don't forget as well, that's the bottom end of the estimate, not the top end. So you usually find that, we should do a little better than that.
Fantastic.
And I, for one, can't wait to find out how everything we found today sells at auction. Our items include the Damehood earrings, which once belonged to the 1930s musical star Jessie Matthews. If Esther manages to get the letter of provenance, they could exceed Paul's estimate of £30 to £50. How about Briar's 19th century mantle clock? It has some damage to the face, but we still hope it'll make £200 to £300. And who knows what that accounts book of Queen Caroline will make? Paul thinks it could quite easily surpass the £1,000 mark. Still to come, Esther seems amazed that her writing slope could pull in such high value.
But why?
Don't worry about why, as long as they pay up.
Let's hope there are no second thoughts about the ivory figures.
Maybe I should take them back.
No! Fingers crossed Esther has no regrets when the final hammer falls.
So it's been a few weeks since we met the doyenne of consumer television, Esther Rantzen, and she came forward with a lot of lovely items to help raise some funds for her favourite charity. Now, we've brought those here to Chiswick Auction Rooms in West London, and we're just hoping that today the buyers in the room will help us raise the £1,000 she's looking for.
These weekly auctions are popular with both dealers and individuals looking for a bargain. So what will today's crowd make of Esther's assortment of mementos? It's amazing what you can find at auction. Let's hope Esther's fans aren't feeling too boorish when it comes to bidding today.
Good morning, Esther.
Good morning, how are you?
How are you? Now, Esther, is that an envelope of provenance?
Yes, it is indeed. What I got here is...
Good grief.
a letter from me talking about how I got the earrings and the fact they belong to Jessie Matthews. Here was their first owner, Jessie Matthews.
Lovely, stunning photograph.
She won every heart in her day. Then she met actress Audrey Label. Audrey was in the same production of Dick Whittington, when I appeared as Dick Whittington in Bognor.
Lordy.
There you go.
Lordy, and at the end of the series, where do I think I was? At the end of the run, Audrey gave me the earrings. So now I've got a little card from Audrey talking about the circumstances.
Oh, how lovely.
Oh, that's fantastic. That really does authenticate and adds provenance to those earrings.
I can't take my eyes off you as Dick Whittington, to be honest with you. Goodness.
Of course, we mustn't forget that Esther also has that account book of Queen Caroline, which will be going to a specialist sale on another day. But for now, our first lot is the pair of earrings. Esther is well used to entertaining an audience and volunteers to generate some interest from the podium.
So these are genuine Diamante earrings, as worn by Jessie Matthews. So now I say, what am I bid, don't I?
Yep.
And where do I start?
I should start £20 would be a good start.
Come on, there we are.
There we go, straight off.
£20, that's lovely. Shall we say 25?
25.
Yes, when they flap their things. Isn't it?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good
Right,
sign.
25. And that's a 30.
That is.
Wow, and that's 40. And that, I'm going up in tens now. Am I allowed to?
Well, you might. Should we start in
down
fives?
again? What would you like?
Chris is bidding 40 anyway.
You want 40? 50, see?
There we go.
55. Yes! Would you like 60? Wow! 65.
65.
She's doing extremely well,
Very, very nicely tailored check shirt. 65. Does
Yep.
flattery do any good here? 70 we could go, maybe.
Anybody want to bid 70? Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah, 70.
70 in the middle there, new bidder.
There's another one down there. Bottom.
And you would look great with these.
Oh, that's 75 there.
Are you 75 and you don't look a day over 40?
85.
This is so good. 85, more.
90 with that gentleman again.
100. Wow.
And 110 there.
110.
110. Anybody else want to come in at 120? £110 we're at now.
120.
120. 130. 130 there then. Are you all done and finished at 130 in the middle?
130 in the middle we
Put the
have.
gavel down.
Oh, right, sorry.
At £130 then, you all done?
Wait a minute.
140.
Wow.
Is that it?
I'm allowed to say this, aren't
You
I?
can.
Ooh!
150.
160. This is a bidding war. 160. Right. 200. The gentleman here is bidding £200. Thank you, sir. Are we allowed a round of applause?
Hang on, I think we haven't quite finished yet.
£200, are we?
Are you bidding 210, sir? You look like 210.
210.
He's out. 210.
Well, can I just say, you are a lovely gentleman and you will look so nice in the evening. So we say...
So we're going to put the hammer down then. £210.
There we go. Let's go with the hammer.
Going.
How much did we do? £210. Wow. They just didn't stop bidding. I couldn't believe it. That's fantastic. They were so sweet, weren't they?
That was. But did you enjoy that? It's kind of buzz, isn't it?
I don't want to do it again. I'm exhausted.
What an absolutely fantastic result, and what a great job Esther did working the generous bidders here. The auctioneer takes over for the next lot, the silver pocket watches that once belonged to Briar's uncle. We want £30 to £50 for them.
That seems quite cheap.
Well, yeah, they both need, how can I put this, a bit of restoration, I think.
A bit tired.
Yes, I don't think they'll ever work as watches again, but for somebody that's doing up watches, a renovation, somebody wants the parts, maybe make one good one from the two.
Yeah, what are they worth? £20 start me for them. £20 surely. I'm bid 20, 22, 25, 28, 30.
That's what they're worth.
£30 there.
30, that's
32, 32, thank you. 35, 38. £38 for the lady here at 38. Anybody else at £38? It's you, madam, here at 38. I'm going to sell them for 38. Are you bidding 40? 40. £40 further away then at 40. You all done? £40.
There you go, 40 pounds. That's great, isn't it?
That's good. Well done.
That's really not a bad result when you consider that they're a restoration project. Now it's the turn of the 9-framed prints of West London in the Victorian period and earlier. We're hoping these will raise £120 to £150.
£60 to start me for the prints. Surely I'm bid 65, 70. £70 is all I'm bid for those prints. Not quite enough at £70, but 75 I'll take. At £70. No interest then at £70. Anybody want to come in? 75. I've still got 80. Do you want 85? So I'm bid £80 from the gentleman there.
There we go.
And I'm going to take 85. Would you like 90, sir? No, because it's not really quite enough at £85. I think, I don't know if somebody will bid 90, I don't know if that's enough, if you'd like me to sell it. £90 I'm bid here then at £90, and I can sell it then for 90. Permission from my right at £90. Anybody else? It doesn't seem very much at 90, but the hammer's going to have to come down. At £90 then I'm going to sell it.
Thank you anyway, thank you. There we are, 90. We tried our best there, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We made it on the earrings.
We did.
I always think it's best not to dwell too much on each individual sale. It's better to stay positive and see how it works out in the end. The early 19th century engraved wine goblet in a neoclassical design comes up next. Will we be toasting its success?
Start me this lot, £20 for the glass, please. Surely for 20 for the engraved glass. £10 to start me then.
No, come on,
I bid 10 everywhere,
10
12, 14 do you want? £12 there, 14, 16, 18, £18 further away at 18.
That's strange.
20, 22, 25, 25 there, 28 now, 30. £30 in the
Just a bit
check
less.
there at 30. Anybody else at £30 for the glass? At £30 I'm going to sell it. At nobody else? At £30 it goes. £30, £30, 180.
Wow.
Still could
My
for
poor-
glass.
No, my father-in-law would be very upset because I think he thought it was a very good glass.
Esther's disappointment is understandable. It's tough when items of sentimental value sell for less than you'd like. We've had a few ups and downs in the first half, so how has that left our running total?
It's definitely going to be those earrings. That was amazing. You really worked your magic on the room there, didn't you?
But are we still down a bit on our estimates?
You always come round to that, don't you? It always boils down to money, doesn't it?
Certainly in this case, my goodness,
All right, well, so far we've made £370.
That's fantastic.
is that good?
That's really good, I think, yeah. Considering the earrings run at £30.
And there's some great items still to come, including those ivory pieces, Briar's mantle clock, and, of course, the 18th century accounts book, which will be sold at a specialist sale. If you're interested in buying or selling at auction, do bear in mind that charges such as VAT and commission will be added to your bill. These vary from one sale room to another, so it's always worth inquiring in advance. Esther's never been to an auction before, and she's like a little girl in a sweet shop at one particular counter.
Ah, can I see that green one?
Sure.
I love antique jewellery, always have done. And that one, beautiful shape, emeralds. I don't own any emeralds.
There we go.
Anyone else shown any interest?
I couldn't tell you.
Why not? Aren't you allowed to?
No.
What's the price?
That's 2,700, 3,000 estimate.
It was perfect actually in every way except the price.
But you never know.
You're having it back.
Could be a lucky day.
What, could it go less?
Could do, if no one else wants it.
Could go more.
In fact, no one was tempted by that pricey piece, and it remained unsold. We gather together again in time to see Esther's Victorian rosewood writing slope come up.
I'd be very surprised if it makes anything, to be honest with you.
And why do you feel like that?
It's battered. It's a bit battered, poor old thing, aren't we all? And you know, the glass went for so little. I don't know that this will go for anything.
The boxes are very popular, even now. I think people just like small objects, just to, you know, conversation pieces, really. What do you want for this?
We're looking sort of £40 to £60. It's a restorer's lot. People love to spend hours bringing them back to life. So this will eventually be a very nice writing slot, or an early laptop, as I like to call it.
£10 to go. I'm bid 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 20 there, 22, 25, 28, £28 here.
Can't believe it.
30, £30. I'm bid 30, 32, 35.
Don't worry about
£35 I'm bid now at 35. At 35, 38 I'll take. It's a charity lot then. At £35 you're all done and finished at 35.
One more.
At £35, 35 it is.
£35.
I'm amazed, actually.
It's surprising how consistently in demand these old writing slopes are, even when they're not in pristine condition. And old chess books like this 19th century one are also sought after. We hope it will fetch between £100 and £150.
Are you big chess players, you two? Do you play chess?
No, my father was, and my husband was. So, but I didn't think there was anything special about this book. I'm really surprised.
Well, no, it's quite a collectible book, actually. It's printed in 1846, so it's quite early on in the chess game that we know. Obviously, chess is a lot older, but the chess game that we know, the 19th century is the golden age, really. So I think it's a good thing. Let's see how we go.
Start me £50 for the book, please. £50
Tell them it's for me.
50, 55, 65, £65 that book now. Not quite enough at 65. With me at £65, 70 I'll take from somebody in the room. At £65. Anybody? £65, 70. I'm going to take one more 75. Do you want 80? £80 in the room. £80. We've sold it at £80. Anybody else at £80 then? At £80, I'm going to sell it then in front of me at 80. Thank you very much.
I think that gentleman's a bit of a fan, Esther.
But he didn't say it was for me. He didn't say it was for
Well, I
Childline.
think he sussed it out, I really do.
Maybe he's also a keen player of the game and would like to study some clever moves from yesteryear. We have something of Briar's up next, the beautiful mantel clock, which he's had for several years.
Geoffrey Mann gave it to me when he moved. He's an expert on cabbage eggs on the Antiques Roadshow, and he was my next door neighbour, and he gave me the clock, and I'm giving it for Childline.
Oh, right. Oh, that's fantastic, isn't it? So what do you want for this?
Look between £200 and £300. It needs slight attention, this one, but the overall...
What way?
the dial is a bit crazed, which can be repaired, but it's expensive.
Botox,
And
darling.
there's a chip in the glass, there's a little tiny chip.
Yeah, but it is overall, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece, isn't it?
And there are some clock dealers here today, because I know one or two that come regular here, so hopefully this one gets away 200.
Glad to say I've got a couple of bids to get us going anyway. I'm bid 170, 180. 190 I'll take in the room. With me at £180 for the clock. At 180. Surely I can tempt 190. 190 there. In the room now at 190. Anybody want to make it up to 200? Nice round money for 200, anybody? 190 there in the cap at 190. Anybody else? £190 for the clock. For charity at £190, I'm going to sell it then. 190 it goes.
There you go. I think allowing for the restoration, I think that's fair enough, actually.
Yeah, so I mean, it's almost at the bottom of the I'm at 200 and also got 190. Are you happy with that?
I'm very happy with that. Yeah, excellent.
Brilliant. You're asking me if I'm happy, I'm relieved.
Poor Paul, he always gets so anxious when things don't make their estimate. But it was only just under, and both Esther and Briar are very happy.
I really have got a lot riding on this because it's the fantastic collection of ivory, and the estimate's 300 to 500.
That's right, there's 6 items all together, and the wonderful thing is little woggles, the carving on these are fantastic, and I think they've got a real good chance of making at least that, so let's...
I like the chicken the egg, actually.
I like the little rat coming out of the nut. Sweet.
I'm glad to say I've got a little bit of interest in this lot straight off. I'm straight in at £250.
250 round.
250 on the books.
260, 270, 280, 290, 300, and 20, 340, 360, 380, 400, and 20, 440, 460.
Maybe I should take them back.
£500 here. Anybody else? At £500 for the Netskis. At £500 another charity lot. At £500 it goes then. £500. There we go.
Bingo.
500.
There you go.
That's superb. That is superb. That's half of your target in one lot.
There was a moment when they were going so high, I thought maybe I'd made a mistake in giving them.
I don't think Esther means that, and I know she's going to be bowled over when she hears how much she's made at the end of this sale.
We'll get in there now.
Right, now, bearing in mind, of course, that all this money is going to such a good cause, and you wanted to raise around £1,000, didn't you?
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed it today?
Yes, it's brilliant. I would never have dared do it. Never. I've never been in an auction house in my life.
I think you got a job as an auctioneer, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But, of course, we're here to do a job, which is to raise that money. And I'm delighted to tell you that the total comes to £1,175.
It's fantastic. How did we do that?
Well, you did a lot of it, didn't you?
How did we do that?
And you made your donations.
And the book is yet to come.
Absolutely. So that's just going to be the icing on the cake,
Well, I
isn't it?
think that is an absolute extraordinary achievement. Well, thank you. Thank you.
What a terrific result. And a few weeks later, that incredible accounts book of Queen Caroline is entered into a specialist fine art auction at John Nicholson's of Hazelmere in Surrey. Various experts have looked at it and decreed that while it's not an original, It is an 18th century duplicate and therefore still of great interest. The estimate has been reduced accordingly, but Esther is keen to help it make its full potential.
Will anyone bid £500?
Mr. Marr.
Mr. Marr? Which is Mr. Marr?
He's the wealthy one now.
Oh, Mr. Marr, how do you do? Thank you very much. £600? I've got 600 here. Oh, Mr. Marr, I apologise. I've already got one here for £600. Will you go up on that? 700. Any advance on 700? 750? So is Mr. Marr going to buy it? Unless he'd like to bid against himself. Mr. Marr, you wouldn't like to bid it up to 800, would you? 800, he's bidding against himself. So now I say, for £800, Mr. Marr, you're gorgeous. Going, gone. Thank you. I'm absolutely thrilled. I couldn't be more thrilled. There were lots going for £10 and £20, and I thought nobody was going to want to bid any sum of money for this book, and I'm sure it's going to a good home.
Well, I think it's an interesting period of English history. I'm a history graduate, and it's just full of extraordinary detail about the inner operations of Queen Caroline's household. So I'll have a lot of fun reading it and researching it and enjoying it.
Esther's total overall was £1,975, which will be going to the charity she helped set up. It has bases around the UK with trained volunteers on hand to provide advice and support 24 hours a day. Today she's visiting the London office.
Hello, Esther, lovely to see you. And you. Do you know about my attic? I do. The money raised for Childline goes to pay our phone bill because these calls are all free to the child. We pick up the phone bill. To train volunteer counsellors, and they're our most precious asset because the more volunteer counsellors we have, the more children we can answer. This has been a great treat. I've learned a heck of a lot. I'm thrilled with the money we've raised, so the whole thing's been lovely. I may, as a result of this, go off to auctions and try bidding myself. I may.